All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on programming. We're going to take a look at a classic first Java program and break it down piece by piece. So let's just dive right in. At its heart, that's really all programming is. It's just learning a language so you can give a computer some very specific instructions. It's kind of like having a conversation. And, well, like any good conversation, you've got to start with a simple hello. And this right here, in the programming world, this is pretty much the traditional first greeting. It's the famous Hello World program. I know, it probably looks a bit intimidating, right? Kind of like a secret code. But I promise you, by the time we're done here, every single part of this is going to make perfect sense. We're going to solve this little mystery together. Yeah, the best way to think about programming isn't that it's some kind of magic. It's way more like building with Legos or putting together a puzzle. Each little piece has its own specific shape, its own purpose, and they all just click together to create the whole picture. Okay, so let's grab our very first puzzle piece. Every single Java program has to be built inside some kind of container, right? Think of it like a blueprint that holds everything else together, and this is called a class. So if we look at our code again, before we can even begin to understand the instructions that are inside it, we have to understand the box they come in. See that highlighted bit? Public class hello? That's just us giving our blueprint a name. We're literally telling Java, hey, I'm making a new program blueprint and I'm going to call it hello. And those curly braces you see, those are just the boundaries. They tell the computer where our blueprint starts and where it ends. So the big takeaway here is that a class is really just an organizational tool. It's the folder that holds all the files. It's the blueprint that contains all the plans. Simple as that. And every single Java program has to live inside a class. Okay, so we've got our container. We have our blueprint, but a box full of instructions isn't very useful if you don't know where to start, right? And that brings us to our next puzzle piece, the official starting point. In programming, we call this a method. So, back to our code. We've figured out the outer shell, that's the class. Now let's find the engine, the part that actually makes this whole thing go. This highlighted part, this is the main method. Now, in Java, the word main is kind of like a magic keyword. When you tell your computer to run the program, the very first thing it does is look for this exact line. This is the official front door. And all those other words, public, static, they're just setting some rules. Public just means it can be accessed from anywhere, and static means it can run without any complicated setup. It's all designed to make it super easy for the computer to find it and get started. Here's another way to think about it. If the class is the whole recipe book, then the main method is step 1 on the very first page. It's the starting gun for the race. Everything inside its curly braces is what the program is going to do in order right from the get-go. All right, so we've got our blueprint and we have a starting instruction. But how do we actually get the message from our simple text file to show up on the computer screen? Well, it's actually a 3-step process. So first, we write our code, our source code, in a file we'll call hello.java. That's for us, for humans to read. But here's the thing, a computer doesn't understand that directly. So for step 2, we have to use a special program called a compiler, in this case, Javac. Its whole job is to translate our human-friendly code into something the machine can understand. And that creates a new file, hello.class. And then finally, step 3, we use the Java command to actually execute that compiled code, and that is what makes our program run. And after all of that, writing the blueprint, defining the starting point, compiling it, running it, we finally get our result. That one instruction we put inside the main method, that System.out.println hello world line, it finally does its job, and boom, our message pops up right on the screen. Okay, so that's the fundamental structure. That's the core of it. Now that we understand the basic puzzle pieces, let's see how we can add some slightly more complex features. And you'll see it's actually way easier than you might think. All right, take a look here. On the left, that's our original program. On the right, we've got a new one that also prints out the current date. But look closely. The core structure, it's exactly the same. We still have a class, we still have that all-important main method. The only real differences are the new lines of code we've sprinkled in, and especially that new line, right at the very top of the file on the right. That new line at the top, the one that says import, that's the key to everything. See, programmers almost never build everything from scratch. That would take forever. Java comes with these huge libraries of pre-built code. It's like having whole trays of pre-assembled puzzle pieces for all sorts of common tasks. That import statement is just you saying, hey, I'd like to use the pre-built tools for handling dates in my program. It's an incredibly powerful shortcut. So what does this all really mean? It means you get it now. You actually understand the fundamental anatomy of a simple program. There's a container, we call it a class. There's a starting point, we call it the main method. And then there are the instructions you put inside. With these simple interlocking building blocks, you can seriously start to construct almost anything. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build?